Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, we're looking at Luke chapter 21 today, but we need to remember how chapter 20 ends. Remember, Jesus had just asked the Pharisees and the scribes the question about who is the son of David and Psalm 110, and they refused to answer because they would have had to acknowledge that Jesus Christ, the Messiah, is indeed the son of David. The people had already recognized that. Then he gave a scathing rebuke to the disciples right in front of these Pharisees, scribes, Sadducees, elders, and leaders of Israel, of these people and their religious hypocrisy, when he finished chapter 20 by saying, "Beware of the scribes who desire to go around in long robes, love the greetings in the marketplaces, the best seats in the synagogues, and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. These will receive the greater condemnation." And then chapter 21 starts. And of course, our divisions in the Bible weren't in the original Greek, in the original Bible. In chapter 21, he looks up in verse 21, verse 1, and he looked up. So as he makes this statement, he looks up about the scribes, the Pharisees, being devourers of widows' tables, and he saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And so here are the elite of the people that have the money, that own the vineyards, own the orchards, own the businesses, and they are sometimes maybe even the tax collectors trying to be religious now, and they're putting in their money and their gifts in the treasury. And at the same time, Jesus saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. I mean, hardly anything at all, couple pennies. And so he said, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in their offerings for God, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood that she had." Jesus basically is making the statement that she outgave them all, because God is not looking at the portion, how much we give. He's given it the proportion, not only how much we give, but how much we kept for ourselves. And what he's basically also teaching here is that everything is the Lord's. Everything. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, the wealth in every mine. And basically, we are his stewards of his resources that he has given us. He gives us the breath we breathe. The book of Deuteronomy says it is God who gives us power to get wealth. In the book of Malachi, the last book of the Old Testament, the stinging rebuke again of the people of God who were back in the land, and yet they were bringing offerings that were not the kind of offerings that God wanted them to bring, because they were just doing outward religion, but inwardly they were robbing God. And he says, "You have robbed God." And they says, "Well, where have we robbed you?" In Malachi chapter 3, verses 11 and so forth. And he says, "You've robbed me in your tithes and in your offerings." And again, he's teaching that he owns it all, and your offerings are beyond the tenth, the tithe that you give off the top, just to remind yourself, as the Old Testament teaches, as an act of worship, that God, you gave me everything I have, and the least I can give is back a tenth to you. Now, some people say, well, the tithe is under the law, we're under grace, we don't have to tithe. But I remind you that Abraham paid tithes before the law was given, and Jacob said, "I'll give you a tenth." That's before the law was given. The tithing is a spiritual principle in the scripture that teaches us that we are worshiping God when we recognize and lay aside the first fruits at the beginning of every week of all that God has given us the previous week, and we show him that we're honoring him. And Jesus said of this widow lady, she gave more than them all, because they gave out their abundance, but she gave all her living. You know, God doesn't want a part of our lives. He wants 100% of our lives, 100%. And that's what I believe the Lord would have us know today. Oh, if you get an opportunity, be sure and read other passages of Scripture like 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 1 through 15, that teach us powerful lesson also. Well, let's start off the chapter of 21 of Luke by just knowing God is the Lord. It's all His. Let's keep Him first in every area of our life. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.